Exploring the darker side of reality. Welcome to Rawpedia.
The modern smart home was sold on a very simple premise: frictionless convenience and effortless security. Consumers willingly brought new hardware into their living rooms to automate daily chores, set kitchen timers, and monitor their front porches from any smartphone in the world. 3 devices quickly became the standard for this connected life: the robotic vacuum, the digital smart speaker, and the high-definition doorbell camera. While they perform entirely different tasks, the distinct streams of information they generate flow to the exact same destination. All 3 of these devices are owned by a single $1.7 billion corporate entity. To ensure this hardware found a place in millions of households, it was often aggressively priced or given away in promotions. The corporation was willing to take a loss on the physical machine, because the actual strategy was to establish a permanent, constantly updating data extraction foothold inside the private sanctuary. The corporation explicitly promised that customer privacy was a foundational principle. However, federal regulators documented a different reality, resulting in a $30 million penalty issued by the Federal Trade Commission. The commission's filings exposed severe failures in how the most intimate data imaginable was handled. The default architecture of this ecosystem was designed to quietly capture and indefinitely retain highly personal information on remote servers. The company actively ignored requests from parents to delete audio recordings, and it stripped away basic internal security safeguards that would normally protect consumer accounts. Every internal decision prioritized algorithmic training and corporate profit over user protection. The hardware consumers purchase to secure their homes maintains a permanent, searchable archive of the private residence. Look closely at the robotic vacuum. It doesn't wander randomly until the floor is clean. It relies on an array of advanced spatial sensors to learn and memorize the exact physical dimensions of every room it enters. The hardware logs the exact square footage, furniture placement, and daily pathways to create a digitized floor plan. By cross-referencing existing purchasing habits with these layouts, the corporation maps exactly where their items are placed inside the house. The first vector of this domestic dossier relies entirely on extracting the physical topography of the home. Possessing this hardware gives the corporation a 360-degree architectural view of the customer's life, placing every purchase within the specific context of their home layout. Inside those rooms, the smart speaker sits on the kitchen counter. It functions as an always-open microphone stationed in the most intimate spaces of the house, continuously intercepting the airwaves. The company did not clearly alert its customers that thousands of human employees and third-party contractors were granted access to listen to and transcribe these private audio snippets. This practice resulted in a direct violation of the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. The distinct voices of more than 800,000 children under 13 were retained indefinitely, specifically to train the company's artificial intelligence algorithms. The second vector relies entirely on intercepting the unfiltered audio of daily life. The expectation of a private conversation is erased. Biological voice patterns are intercepted and converted into permanent corporate training data. At the front door, the doorbell camera operates as a high-definition lens transmitting directly to the cloud. It functions as a surveillance node, capturing all activity on the perimeter of the property. The Federal Trade Commission discovered that the doorbell camera subsidiary gave its employees completely unrestricted access to customer videos. One employee spent months viewing thousands of recordings capturing women inside their own bedrooms and bathrooms. Because the corporation failed to implement basic standard security measures like multi-factor authentication, hackers easily breached the accounts of 55,000 residential users. They seized control of two-way audio to verbally harass and threaten families from inside their houses. The final data vector captures the permanent visual record of the home's perimeter. The internal corporate architecture proved entirely incapable of securing the sensitive, intimate feeds it demanded from the consumer. The data gathered locally does not remain local. The camera network established direct partnerships with over 2,500 local law enforcement agencies across the country. A feature embedded in the camera's associated application allows police to bypass a judge and request footage directly from neighborhoods, creating a massive, crowdsourced surveillance grid. Researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology analyzed the platform and concluded that it operates as a racial gatekeeping tool, actively framing subjects as suspicious and turning residential streets into zones of participatory mass surveillance. Through continuous facial recognition processes, the cameras learn to catalog individuals over time. Non-consenting bystanders who simply walk past a property are forced into a biometric database with no mechanism offered to opt out. By utilizing this private network to bypass public acquisition processes, consumer hardware has effectively funded and built a nationwide surveillance perimeter for local authorities. Federal filings show that the exposure of this data reaches the national level. Law enforcement leaders acknowledge actively searching camera audit logs to share intelligence with the Department of Homeland Security and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The hardware facilitates a law enforcement technique known as parallel construction. Officials can use the network to locate a minor visual infraction, like a broken taillight, and use it as an excuse to initiate a broader investigation, laundering the original source of the surveillance. The entire ecosystem operates as an unregulated intelligence-gathering operation, integrating directly with federal contractors like Axon and Flock Safety, who hold multi-year agreements to supply this data to federal agencies. Currently, absolutely no federal law prevents a single corporate entity from combining the spatial layout of your living room, the audio signatures of your family, and the visual record of every person who approaches your front door. The modern surveillance state does not rely on hidden microphones planted by government agents. It is purchased, unboxed, and connected to the local internet network by the homeowner.
Every answer leads to a deeper question. Subscribe, like, and keep exploring. This is Rawpedia.